Hello and welcome back to ReZero X Volume 1. So this is the second part of Chapter 4 because it is a very long chapter apparently, or at the very least I had a lot to say about it. So if you missed the first part, links in the description to go back and see that. But anyway, on to the story. So while Felix's group is heading towards the Argyle mansion, we cut over to Cruchet, who is waking up in the dungeon, I guess this would be. She's currently tied up by like metal chains and stuff, so she can't move, and she is blindfolded. She can still smell though, which it says that it smells like shit and rotting meat, which we all know what that smells like. She's blindfolded. She can't see what's happening. We know the smell is from all the zombies and stuff, but she can't see anything, so she doesn't know about that just yet. She starts to kind of speak to herself about the situation that she's in, but that is when one other person in the room starts talking to her, and that is Bean Argyle. He is just chilling in the room, waiting for her to wake up, I guess. Bean pretty much reiterates what he said earlier that he needs Felix to come there. And even Crochet agrees that as long as she is kidnapped, Felix is eventually going to end up coming. But she does say that she prepared for this and has the entire mansion surrounded by her army. But Bean doesn't really react to this. He doesn't say anything. He doesn't seem to have any kind of shock and doesn't care, which does tip Crochet off a little bit that something is up and it's not going the way that the way that she had planned it. She doesn't get super freaked out about it just yet. She's still trying to be as confident as she can, and she's not going to give up just because the situation is not to what she originally planned it to be. As Bean is leaving the room, he does say that they are currently in the room that Felix was locked in like a decade ago. So this does mean that Cruchet knows about where she is in the house. She knows that she is in the basement and that she's probably not going to be found until like the army bust in or something. At that point, Bean leaves and he goes back upstairs to join Miles. And Miles has apparently been keeping a watch out for Felix, but he doesn't really know what Felix looks like. He does say that he hasn't seen any demi-humans, which it causes Bean to like flip out. I guess even though he very much wants Felix to be there, it's not because of Felix himself. It kind of is and it kind of isn't. He still is trying to deny that Felix is a demi-human for some reason. I don't know. It's weird. He just freaks out about the fact that Miles pointed out that Felix is a demi-human. But anyway, we learn about what is happening here, basically. Well, more details on what Bean is planning or what he's been doing, I guess. We'll get there eventually. Okay, so what he has been planning and what he's been doing up until this point. There is a spell called the Sacrament of the Immortal King. This is the spell that Bean has been using to essentially resurrect the dead. But this was a spell that was created by a witch. The book doesn't say who or which. It doesn't say who created it. But my guess would be Echidna, just because it's Echidna. All we know is that when this was originally created, it could be used to just straight up resurrect someone from the dead, like fully grab their soul and put it back into their body. Which is why I think it's Echidna, because of some of the stuff that happens in the fourth arc with her grabbing souls. But since this has been hundreds of years, a lot of the details, well, maybe not a lot, enough of the details of the spell has been lost to time. And it doesn't work as well as it used to. Bean isn't exactly the best spell caster as it is, and he is not able to use the spell to its fullest potential. Um, Apparently, you have to have some affinity to the spell in order to get it to work, which is the reason why it's actually been passed down in the Argyle family. Apparently, the Argyles have some affinity to the spell for some reason. That part's not stated. That I'm kind of pulling context clues to guess at that part. So Bean has the affinity to use this spell, and he has a book that tells him how to use it. But even then, he doesn't have the enough of magical ability to be able to pull it off very well, which is the reason why he now has zombies. He's basically able to reanimate corpses, but they are still basically just corpses. Their actual souls aren't back into their body. They're just moving, and that's pretty much it. So you can kind of start seeing the groundwork on on why he is wanting Felix back specifically. It's not because of it is because of who he is, but it's because he has the potential to use this spell, and I will get into more into that in a bit. So Felix and his group finally arrive at the Argyle estate, and they see the dead fighting back, or they see the army fighting the living dead there. And Julius immediately recognizes, like, oh, this is the sacrament of the immortal king, and this is hilarious to me because later on, I think either Bean or Miles, I don't remember exactly which one said it, but one of them, oh, it's Miles. Miles says that this isn't very well known, but goddamn, it feels like everybody who sees the dead people walking around immediately knows what this is. So Julius sees the dead walking around and he gets frustrated and tries to get out to go start fighting, but then he is stopped by Prince Fourier, and he tells Julius that it's not the right time just yet, basically. And they start discussing the demands that were sent over by Bean, which essentially was that Felix was to come alone. I mean, that's pretty much the only demands they made. Felix doesn't like this, but he is going to go alone, regardless of what anyone else says, because he wants to make sure that Cruchet is okay. Fourier doesn't try to stop him. Instead, he pretty much says, like, hey, I already know you're going to go, so I'm not going to try to stop you. But he reaffirms, like, you're going to go because you are Cruchet's knight. Like, you're going to protect her because that is what you're supposed to be doing. And I do think this actually helps Felix, because this isn't just, hey, you're confronting your past and everything. It's like, hey, this is what you're supposed to be doing, kind of thing. And he's Felix is still real nervous about this whole situation, but I do think that Fourier's words helps him to I don't want to say calm down, but kind of anchor himself a little bit. So Felix heads off towards the mansion alone, and it was stated in the demands that Felix would be able to walk by the zombies without getting attacked. And sure enough, that is what ends up happening. He walks by the zombies. They completely ignore him. Maybe not completely. They maybe like acknowledge that he's walking by, and then they just move on. So they're not going to attack him. And Julius watches as Felix leaves, and this is kind of where he expresses like his he's not exactly happy about sitting back and watching this entire thing go down. And Fourier, I'm just going to quote it: "Don't get so worked up. There will be many times to come when your strength will be needed. The vexation of this moment is not a sign of your impotence." So the Lagunica family is the family that is currently in charge of the kingdom, but the rumors that are going around are basically that they are not the best when it comes to ruling. I don't know if that's the right way to put it. Footy's personality is very laid back, is the way that I've been describing it. And I think that is similar to the rest of his family. they're not like terrible people or anything. They're not like running the country into the ground or anything. They're just not like the best politicians. And because of that, the rumor is basically that they are the ones in charge, but they're not the ones in charge. And this rumor has reached Julius and his has affected his way of how he views the royal family up until this point. And at this moment, when Fourier is talking and reassuring him, he sees that he can be a good leader. And so he gains a new respect for the Lugunuka family and dismisses the rumors, basically. Felix makes it to the house and he is greeted by the maid. So while the maid is leading Felix to the guest room, I guess it would be, she tries to do a little bit of small talk, most of which is pretty much dismissed by Felix. Not that he like stays silent, he answers, but he's pretty much it is very apparent that he does not want to talk. There is one point where there are zombies still in the house, like there are zombies outside and inside. And so while they're walking by one of them, Felix kind of like pokes him just to see like what the zombie will do. And the zombie turns, and like knows it got poked, and like turns to look, sees that it's Felix, and then just goes right back to whatever the fuck it was doing. And the maid comments that she's surprised that he would even touch them because they're rotting corpses. And Felix is just like, yeah, I'm used to handling dead bodies. So they get to the room that Bean is in. Again, I think it's the guest room. I don't know. But Felix comes in, and Bean is very overly excited to see Felix. And because he keeps treating him and like saying, oh, this is like treating Felix as if he is his son. And this is a very stark contrast to how he treated him the first decade of his life. Like he didn't really he was hidden away as if he wasn't actually a part of the family, and now all of a sudden, it seems like he wants to pretend like that never happened. That's not quite the way it is, but he wanted to act like he wasn't an actual part of the family before, and now all of a sudden he's acting like, oh, they've been family this entire time. And we already know it's because of the sacrament. Bean wants Felix for that for some reason that we're going to learn here soon. But it's a little bit of a sign of how I don't want to say he's crazy. I think he's delusional is probably a better way of putting it. And I think it's going to be more apparent um, here as he continues to talk because he recognizes that this is Felix. Like it's not like he doesn't know who it is, but he also comments like that Felix is thin and small and dainty, has small arms and like is wearing women's clothes. He says that that is because of Crochet. Like he blames that on Crochet because Crochet goes around wearing men's clothes. So he makes the connection. Oh, you're wearing women's clothes because Crochet is forcing that on you. Basically, that he is thin, he is being girly because of Crochet. This really frustrates Felix because a lot of his physical attributes are because of I would say probably malnutrition when he was younger. I don't exactly know how all of that works. I'm not. Anatomy is not my best subject. Anatomy and biology is not my best subjects. So, but I think that that would have a lot to do with how his body basically grew as he got older. And all the evidence points to he probably wasn't given enough as he was growing up. I would imagine part of the reason why he is as small as he is maybe because of his demi-human heart, and maybe because he wasn't exactly treated, or he wasn't exactly given enough food basically to grow as a baby. But again, that's just kind of me guessing. Those exact details aren't given in the book. Being just ignoring any kind of reaction that Felix may give. Felix didn't say anything out loud. He is trying to be as nice as possible, more for the sake of getting Crochet, not more than anything else. And Bean tries to actually go up and hug Felix, and Felix dodges that and pretty much just demands, like, no, I'm here for Crochet. I'm not here to be a family. And now he starts to kind of argue back and yell back. He was being nice up until this point, but I think he's just getting too frustrated at the situation. And I'm just going to quote what he says. Without Lady Crochet, I wouldn't be who I am. So give her back to me, now. I don't care about mistaking you. I don't care about fathers. I'm not joking around. Look at these skinny arms. I can't wield a sword. I can't hold a shield. I am her knight, and with these worthless arms, I can't even fight for her. And my legs are no better. I can't run fast or jump high. I can't do anything. All I want is to protect her, and I can't even do that. You stole it from me. You stole it from me and left me empty. And Lady Crochet gave me my way of life, my way of being. So yeah, Felix is pretty pissed off at the moment, and Bean kind of dismisses it and just says that he's throwing a childish temper tantrum, which doesn't help Felix calm down at all, obviously. But he does say that if Felix wants to be treated like an adult, he will treat him like an adult, and they will cut the shit basically and get down to business. Um, Felix, or no, Bean wants Felix to do something in exchange for Crochet being released. He doesn't explain exactly what it is, but they head off to the next room where he's going to show him what he wants done. And given all the context clues, I think it's obvious, but we've got to wait like 10 minutes, so I'm going to wait. They're on their way out. The maid actually kind of whispers to Felix that his friend is okay, which throws a little bit of confusion to Felix since now it kind of seems like the maid isn't exactly on the Argyle side, but she's also helping them. So there's a little bit of confusion there, but there's a little too much going on for him to really think too much about it at the moment. So they make their way to the master bedroom, and when they go inside, there is a corpse laying on the bed, and this is the I want to say ex-wife. It's not. This is Bean Argyle's wife, Hannah Argyle, and she has been dead for over 2 years, and that kind of gives more context on what's happening because he is essentially trying to raise her from the dead, but because he is not as skilled as he's not super skilled, so he's just kind of been practicing on other corpses, and it's not going well, as we can see from the very undead army that's not alive at all. So he set up this entire situation so that Felix would come there, and then Bean would force Felix to raise his wife from the dead. Um, he gives Felix the book that describes the spell and explains that is the deal, that if Felix can raise his mother, basically, well, kind of, if Felix can raise her from the dead, then Crochet will be let go without any problems. So Felix starts to read the book in order to learn the spell. And while that's happening, I'm going to cut back over to Crochet. So Crochet is still locked up in the dungeon. And at this point, she is joined by Miles and a few zombies. She is no longer blindfolded, hint, hint. But Miles comes in with the zombies. She's sitting there on the ground still, not blindfolded. and they start talking about what they're going to be doing from now on. So Miles is basically a slaver, I think, but his ideas for what he's wanting is the undead army of basically slaves. It's just slavery with extra steps. Because he wants an undead. He wants to be able to raise the undead so that he can sell them and use them as as a workforce, basically. So he's not all in for Bean's idea of raising his wife. He doesn't care about any of that. All he wants is the ability to be able to raise the dead, which isn't, it's a very, very rare ability to be able to do it because it takes an affinity to use the spell. So Bean is one of the very, very few people who is able to use it at the moment. So that is the reason that Miles is there and trying to get close to Bean. And he's kind of starting to sense that things aren't going to go well for him. So what he is trying to do is make a deal with Crochet. And that may not be the best way of putting it because he is trying to make a deal or make a threat depending on her answer. He is wanting to take Crochet and Felix and escape, basically, to go back to his home country. So basically, he wants safe passage, or he has a way to get out, and he is wanting her promise of safe passage to Wallachia, which is the country to the south where he is from. Um, Crochet pretty much kind of is playing the part of a helpless victim here, trying to get information out of him. She starts to sense that maybe there's someone else behind the scenes pulling the strings, like that Miles is not exactly the top, is not the idea guy. There's someone else who is getting Miles to do all of this. But she is not able to get that information from him, mainly because Miles starts to turn his request into threats. He says that if Crochet won't agree, then he will torture Felix. And at that point, Crochet kind of gets really pissed and just stands up. And it is now obvious that she is not tied up at all. Like there are no chains on her hands or feet, and she is just there. And she even remarks, "Hey, it should have been obvious as soon as you noticed that I wasn't blindfolded." um, but Miles tries to get the zombies to attack her, but even though Crochet doesn't have a sword, she is still able to use her technique. And she uses the wind technique and slices everyone down, including Miles, which she is a little bit upset about. Not upset, but she's a little sad about because she wanted to interrogate him more, but she kind of, in her frustration, she did a little too much, and he ended up now down on the ground with a cut on him and bleeding out. He's not moving at all, and she just kind of accepts that they're all dead. Um, at this point, another person runs into the room, and that is Julius. So the prince told Julius that Crochet was probably in the basement. And this is, again, one of his random intuitions where he originally, before Felix had made it to the mansion, Fourier said, like, oh, Crochet is probably either upstairs or downstairs. So if we don't know anything soon, we're going to assume that Felix can handle the upstairs and you are going to go downstairs to check. And that is what it just happened. So Julius managed to make it into the building, managed to make it downstairs, and now he has come across Crochet. Oh, wait, I forgot to say something. So whenever Crochet saw the zombies, she also immediately went to the Sacrament of the Immortal King. Once again, she is another instance of everyone knowing what the fuck zombies are. This isn't The Walking Dead. And she says she guesses the spell and guesses that Miles is not the one doing it. It's Bean Argyle who's actually the one casting the spell. She doesn't know this, but Miles also is very loose lips apparently, and he is just admits all of it. So Julius is there to help get her out, and he is in a hurry because the building is on fire. So they are going to need to get out quick. Okay, so before the building caught on fire, we're going to cut back over to Felix back in the master bedroom. And he gets done reading the book so that now he has a general idea of how the spell works. And he just says that okay, he's going to do it just because it's more about making sure Crochet is okay more than anything else. He doesn't care about his mother being dead or anything. So he goes over to start the spell, but before that, he is a very good healer. Like as soon as I said before, I'm pretty sure he as soon as he can touch somebody, he can tell what's wrong with them, anything like medically wrong with them. And as soon as he does, he notices something strange. And I'm just gonna quote: "Who was it who stabbed my mother to death? There's no point in trying to hide it. You're actually pretty good at preserving dead bodies. Everything looks just like it did the day she passed, including the cause of death. My mother was stabbed, repeatedly, over and over, so many times. This, even I feel bad for her." The mask starts to slip a little bit, and Bean just starts getting hysterical. It is very obvious that he is the one who killed her, and pretty much just instantly like regretted it and has been trying to bring her back ever since. Uh, I mean, he's just an abuser, basically. So he got pissed at something. I don't even know if we fully get the context of what happened. He felt like she was judging him. Like, I don't know. I don't want to guess too much into this because we don't know much. So he killed her and then started to learn the Black Sacrament to start to bring her back. And he didn't want to just try it on her first and has been trying on corpses brought to him by Miles. And we get the army of dead that is outside. And that is why he needed Felix, because it is obvious that he was not going to be able to do it, even no matter how much he practiced. And he thought that maybe that if like I said earlier, this is the first time that he's actually starting to treat Felix like he is family. And it is very much because he wants to use Felix, not because he actually thinks that he's family. At least that's the way it comes off to me. Because if it is true that Felix is his son, then there is a high possibility that Felix will also be able to use the sacrament. Um, Except that Felix has already been shown to be good at healing. I would imagine that Bean has tried this method of using the sacrament to bring back bodies, and it just hasn't worked. And eventually he got to the point to where, because this has been over 2 years, he got to the point to where he started to question, he realized that he wasn't going to be able to do it, and he started to find other ways, which led him to Felix. He probably did research and found out that Felix is a great healer to the point that he can almost like he can bring someone back to life, not fully back to life, but if they are almost dead, Felix can bring them back to life as if nothing happened. I don't know if those types of feats were like open to the public before this, but that is something that he can do. I would imagine there are some types of accolades that are out there about Felix, especially if you look, which I would imagine Bean probably did. And once he saw that, oh, Felix is really good with healing magic, this is just an extra step on top of that. So if Bean can't do it, there is a much better chance with Felix. But anyway, Bean is not listening at all to what's happening. What Felix is saying, once again, he doesn't care about any of this. He is trying to soothe himself by bringing back the wife that he killed, and that's all that he wants. So Felix recognizes this, and he uses the spell on on Hannah and brings her back. She sets up, and Bean runs to her, almost pushing Felix down in the process. And then Hannah, without saying anything, like reaches up to Bean's face and then starts choking him. I she is still technically like a corpse. Like this is, I think she has more strength than what she did in real life. Um, and she just starts to kill him right there. Felix is in the room. The maid is in the room. Nobody reacts. Everybody just sits there and watches as Bean Argyle is killed. In fact, I'm going to quote what Felix says. Go see the person you love, wherever she is. That's what I'm going to do. I won't let anyone take her from me, especially the person who stole everything from me. She gave me something, and you'll never have it from me. I'll never give you any of the things I got when I became a person. So Bean is now dead, and Hannah turns towards Felix and kind of smiles a little bit before her entire body disintegrates. Literally, it is just on the bed. It's Bean's dead body with Hannah's ashes covering him. I guess it's how that would look. Which does seem confusing because like the other zombies don't like disintegrate. But I think what it is, and this is the way that it comes off from Felix. Um, the body itself was basically, my guess is that the body itself was like rotting from the inside because Felix says that this was just going to be the outcome, and he thinks that even Bean knew this. Like Bean did a lot of research into how the sacrament worked, and Felix guesses that even Bean would have recognized that if this would have worked and a soul was put back into the body, that body wasn't going to make it. And this almost goes back into more of the abuse and I want to say narcissistic like viewpoint of Bean. He knew this was never going to work. Well, he probably knew this never was going to work, and he wanted Felix to come do it so that he could blame Felix. Like that is the implication that I got from this. Um, I don't know for sure if that is the case. It could very well not have been the case. It could have been that he was just so delusional that he thought this was going to work and be fine. But I don't know. Given what some of the stuff that Felix says, I kind of feel like at least subconsciously, Bean always knew the outcome was going to be failure. Um, but I'm not sure. So then the maid asked why the corpse, why Hannah um, basically killed Bean. Well, not basically, she did kill Bean. And Felix explains that the spell isn't complete. Like even with him doing it, the soul is gone. Like her soul never came back. Is so it could be that some remnant of what happened is like imprinted onto the body or something, and that she was just angry about what happened and just wanted to get revenge on the person who killed her. The maid has a different viewpoint. She says that maybe Hannah wanted to kill Bean so that he would stop acting so dishonorably, basically saying that Hannah loved Bean the entire time, and that this was Hannah correcting how Bean has been living since then. And I don't. It sounds like fantasy bullshit to me, but maybe there is something to it. So the maid then points and says, "Hey, Cruchet's downstairs," which Felix immediately knows what that means. uh, so he leaves to go rescue Cruchet, and he tries to be nice to the maid and says that he will put in a good word to Cruchet in the hopes that maybe the maid gets some leniency for what's happening. Um, so he leaves the room. The maid is going to stay to basically take care of Bean's body. And as Felix leaves, the door shuts and locks. And as it's shutting, the maid says goodbye. Well, she says goodbye, dear Felix, which causes Felix to kind of pause and turn as the door's shutting in his face. And that's when it locks. Felix tries to open the door again, but he immediately senses heat from the other side of the door. And this is why the building is on fire. The maid, I don't know exactly how she did it, but she set the room on fire. And this had to have been planned like early enough because this fire spreads fast. So something was planned here to burn the building down. I don't know if it was by her or if it was by Bean or what happened. Maybe even Miles, who knows. But this is what was this was planned. This seems to have been planned for a while. And this is causing more mental stress to Felix. The one person he thought was not really on the Argyle side is now choosing to die with them. So it's just one more thing added to all of the bullshit that's been happening today. And he is starting to, well, not starting to, he is well past starting to. He is so upset at just everything. So he runs downstairs to try to get Felix. At this point, he is pretty much on the verge of crying. And as he is going downstairs, he meets with Cruchet and Julius going upstairs. So they have their reunion. Felix pretty much jumps into the arms of Cruchet, and he says a line that I'm going to quote: "Get me out of here. Take me away, just like before. There's nothing here. If I stay here, I won't be me anymore. Make me human. Keep me by your side, with you, Lady Cruchet, and His Highness." This is how much this whole situation is getting to Felix. Being in this building after everything that happened to him in his early life makes him feel less human, makes him feel like he's not an actual person. And as soon as Cruchet hears this, she immediately dials in and recognizes what's going on with Felix. And she hugs him, pats him on the back, and like reassures him that she is there for him. And so they make their way out with Julius leading the way, cutting down any zombies in the path, and they get out of the building just fine. So before we get the aftermath of all of this, there's still one more person we have to deal with. And that is Miles, because he didn't actually die whenever Cruchet cut him. He just faked it so that he could get out. And so now he is flying back on a dragon, or a sky dragon, to get back to Wallachia. And I think I've explained this before. Maybe I shouldn't say no. Let me explain it again. So there are multiple different types of dragons. There's the land dragons that we are used to seeing. There's the water dragons that are in the fifth arc. And there are sky dragons, which we haven't seen too much of in the main story just yet. But these are probably closer to like wyverns, I think. Maybe that's just my imagination. I don't. Maybe I shouldn't speak too much on that. But all three of these are different from like the dragons, which are more closer to what we would imagine in like the Western dragon kind of thing. Those dragons are like the fucking best of the best, immortal, super strong beings. The rest of the dragons, the Earth Dragon, Water Dragon, and um, Sky Dragon, Jesus, I'll get it right. These are closer to, I want to say animals, but it is kind of what they are. They're closer to just normal animals than they are to the dragons. So these are mostly found in the south in that country, which is the reason why we haven't seen them a whole lot in the story. But he is flying one back to back home, and when he starts getting close to the border, he is interrupted by someone who happened to be by the south border, and it's Reinhardt. He said earlier that he was going to be heading that way. I actually think it is because of this. I don't know who ordered him to do this. Oh, wait, no, we do actually know what happened here. Before Fourier left, he asked Captain Marcus to send Reinhardt to the border. So this is once again another instance of Prince Fourier displaying the Lionheart ability. So he uh, this normally wouldn't be allowed to send Reinhardt so close to the border because that could be seen as a provocation of some sort. But because I don't think they got too close, or because he didn't get too close, I think it's fine. It's not like he stepped over the border or anything. Um, but yeah, this was 100% Fourier seeing this or having an intuition about this before he even left the capital. So good job to him. And Reinhardt is not like floating in the sky or anything. He's just standing on the dragon. So he just pops up. He's standing on the dragon and kind of starts making just dumb comments. Well, maybe not. He starts making threats as what it is, because he basically tells Miles, "You're going to land, or I'm going to make you land," kind of thing. So Miles, oh wait, I forgot to add this. Miles has a copy of the Sacrament of the Immortal King. He doesn't have the original, but he has a copy of it. So he is trying to get there to give it to somebody, but that won't matter for very much longer. Because Miles sees him, um, and he's confused about how Reinhardt got there, but he also doesn't recognize him, which is always is going to end up bad for him because he tries to just come to a sudden stop because I guess Miles is like strapped in and everything. So whenever the dragon stops, Reinhardt goes flying off, and it does hurt Miles because he does have a cut, and that sudden pressure on him does cause him to like cough up blood and stuff. But he thinks that is going to be the better outcome. And as he is watching Reinhardt fall, he thinks he's okay, but by the time he notices, it's a bit too late. And as Reinhardt is falling, he basically, I don't think he actually uses the sword. He uses like the scabbard like he does. Or maybe he uses a different sword. Actually, it doesn't say. But Reinhardt slashes. It does his normal light slash that he does, and just evaporates both Miles and his dragon and the copy of the sacrament. So he didn't make it very far. So we cut back over to everybody now outside of the burning house. These zombies apparently just started walking towards the fire. Like as soon as Bean died, they lost the command to attack. And instead of just like standing around, they actively walked towards the fire. And Julius even kind of remarks that it's kind of like even the zombies realize, like, even the zombies don't want to be desecrated in this way, so they're trying to kill themselves basically. Crochet says that they were working with the maid the entire time. That was the reason why she was not in chains whenever Miles got there. Apparently, whenever they started to spy on the mansion, they got into contact with the maid, and the maid agreed to help them. That does mean that Felix being there didn't really help anything. Crochet pretty much had everything planned out from the beginning. Like, she would have been fine if no one had showed up to help her. She could have gotten out because of that deal that she made with the maid. Um, and then wait, so this does affect Felix a little bit. He is upset that he basically wasted his time and put himself in danger and put her in danger by interfering. But that's not the way that Crochet takes it. Crochet takes it as if Felix or the prince thinks that she is in danger, they will put themselves at risk in order to save her. So she is happy, even if, yeah, they didn't need to come. We do get a quick flashback to what happened at that time whenever the maid unlocked the chains from Crochet. Because Crochet kind of questions why she is still helping the Argyles despite everything that's happening. And the maid explains that it's because of love. And the implication is that she is in love with Bean. Um, but before that could be explored anymore, Crochet notices that her hair color, her eye color, and even her face look very similar to Felix's. And that is kind of what the consensus is that I have seen online, is that the maid is actually Felix's mom. The infidelity, the entire reason that he's locked up isn't because of Hannah Argyle. It's because Bean cheated on her with the maid and then tried to hide it. So that I kind of believe that is the case, just given what is said in the book. And the maid doesn't agree, or she doesn't really say anything to confirm that that is true, but that does. I think there's enough there that that is the conclusion. The maid's name is Hannah Regret. There's no, I don't, I don't know if that's how that's supposed to be said, but it is funny to me that um, both people that Bean like are both named Hannah. I don't know if that's supposed to be a nod at something for him, but it is just ironic to me. But the maid leaves, and then that's when Crochet stays and pretends to be locked up, and then Miles comes in soon after that. Actually, wait, no. Before I move on, I think that actually that makes more connections there. So if we look at this, if it's true that that is Felix's mom, then that would mean that Bean cheated on Hannah Argyle with the maid, thus having a kid, and then that's when the demi-human blood comes out. And I don't think Hannah, the maid, is deemed as demi-human. There's nothing said about her being demi-human. I'm pretty sure she's human too. So there is still a question of whether this was Bean Argyle's bloodline coming through here or not. But because he cheated and had a kid with the maid, then his wife is now pissed off about that and now giving him more judgmental looks, which eventually causes him to lose it and kill her, which causes him to be regretful and try to bring her back, which works, and then she kills him. I think that is the order of events. We wrap things up with Felix crying into the arms of Cruchet. Uh, the Prince, Fourier, and Julius are sitting in the carriage, kind of letting them have their moment. Fourier doesn't want to interrupt anything. And while they're talking, Julius once again recognizes or has like new respect for Fourier, and he renews his pledge to him, basically, or to how exactly is it worded here? To it says to you, so to Prince Fourier, and the prince kind of doesn't take it too seriously. He's like, hey, it's a good thing that I mean, loyalty to the kingdom is good, but don't like pledge your allegiance to me. Pledge it to the kingdom instead, kind of thing. And this, the whole thing has kind of shown Julius that maybe he is not as great as he thought he was, basically. So he is trying to live up to what he had in his mind of himself. And now that he has seen that he is not as powerful as he thought. um, Fourier then goes to join in the other two because the other two are sitting outside the carriage, like in the grass, and Fourier is in the carriage, and he says that he's going to step out and go join them, and up until this point, he has been feeling great. Like he has been like hitting it out of the park constantly today with all of his predictions and everything. He is feeling good, and the second that he goes to step out of the carriage, that completely changes. He steps onto the grass and then passes out. Like immediately just kind of falls to the ground. And that's where the chapter ends. This entire chapter has just been a roller coaster of emotions. And I'm kind of hoping that the burning down of the actual building will help Felix heal in some way past all of this. We do know that by the third arc, he still has a little bit of insecurity about his body, about not being able to do more to help Cruchet. But that doesn't seem to be as connected to his past as what it was through this chapter, which makes sense. I mean, he was in the actual building where all of that took place. So hopefully, like I said, them burning down the building, my guess is that that probably helped him, but I'm not sure. With the ending being the prince fainting, we already know where this is heading. We already know what's going to happen to the Lagunica family, and there's only one chapter left. So come back next time to see people die, I guess.